I woke to the cheerful chirping of birds, the morning sun casting a golden glow across my private pond like a shimmering blanket. It was the kind of perfect morning that begged for coffee in one hand and a fishing rod in the other. I was just about to cast my line when a voice, not mine, not anyone I recognized, shattered the peace. Oh my God, I got one. This is huge. My stomach sank. I spun around, and there she was, a middle-aged woman in oversized sunglasses, a floppy sun hat, and a blinding yellow tracksuit, standing at the edge of my pond, wrestling with a fishing rod like she was hauling in a whale. My pond. My property. A total stranger. For a split second, I wondered if I'd imagined her. Maybe the coffee was spiked, but then she yanked the line with a victorious cackle and shouted, "Come to Mama, you slippery sucker." My heart raced. I nearly dropped my mug. "Excuse me," I called, storming toward her. She turned her head slowly, like some cartoon villain, and arched an eyebrow, utterly unbothered. "Oh, hi there. You must be the neighbor or something. Nice pond you've got." She grinned as if she'd just shown up to a potluck, not trespassed on my land. I jabbed a finger at the massive "No Trespassing" sign not 10 feet away. "You do realize you're on private property, right?" She barely glanced at it before rolling her eyes. "Oh, that? I figured that was for litter bugs or something. I'm just fishing." I stopped myself, biting back a surge of anger. "That sign means no one's allowed here without permission, and you definitely don't have it." She let out a condescending huff and waved me off like I was some clueless kid. "Listen, hon, I've got a fishing license. That means I can fish anywhere." I blinked. Once, twice, trying to wrap my head around the nonsense I'd just heard. "That's not how that works." She sighed dramatically, adjusting her hat. "Look, I get that you're new to this, but a responsible angler like me knows water's for everyone. It's practically my duty to fish and keep the ecosystem in check." I stared, dumbfounded. "A duty?" "Exactly," she nodded, oozing self-righteousness. Every muscle in me tensed. "No, you don't have any right to be here." She tugged her line again. Agree to disagree. This woman was unreal. I thought about calling the cops, but something in me wanted to handle it myself. This wasn't just some lost hiker. This was a grown woman who'd convinced herself my private pond was her personal playground. Then, an idea hit me, a wicked, brilliant idea. "All right," I said, keeping my tone steady. "You want to fish here? Let's make a deal." She smirked, like she'd already won. "I'm listening. If you catch the biggest fish in this pond, I'll let you fish here anytime." Her eyes lit up with smug glee. "Oh, sweetie, you're so on." I nearly laughed. She had no clue what she was in for. Lurking in that pond was old Brutus, the meanest, craftiest fish I'd ever met. A 3-foot monster who'd snapped lines and crushed egos for years. A local legend. She was doomed, and she didn't even know it. "Get ready to lose your pond privileges, mister," she taunted, pulling a shiny lure from her bag and tying it on like she was some pro angler. I crossed my arms and leaned against a tree. "Can't wait." She cast her line with a dramatic flourish, confidence radiating off her like a bad cologne. The bait hit the water, and the air grew still, birds quiet, pond waiting. Then it happened. Her line went tight. She gasped, "Oh my God, I think I got it." I smirked. Oh, she'd hooked something all right. The water exploded as old Brutus breached, his scaly bulk glinting in the sun before diving back down with a vicious pull. Her smug grin vanished. Her rod bent dangerously, real screaming. "What the?" she shrieked as the force yanked her forward, feet sliding in the mud. She dug in, clutching the rod, her face twisting in panic. I bit my lip to keep from laughing. "Wow, that looks like a big one. Help me," she squeaked, all arrogance gone. I shrugged. "Oh no, you're a responsible fisherman. You've got this right." She battled, arms shaking, but Brutus wasn't playing. He veered hard, and she toppled face first into the mud, her hat flying off. I thought she'd quit, but she staggered up, mascara streaking, and roared, "I'm not losing to a stupid fish." I chuckled. Wouldn't bet on that. Brutus sensed her desperation and went for the kill. With one final tug, the rod slipped from her grip. "No, no, no," she screamed, lunging too late. It vanished into the pond. Stunned, she stood there, panting, dripping mud. Then, as if to rub it in, Brutus leaped again, splashing her square in the face before disappearing. I doubled over, laughing so hard I could barely breathe. She froze, mouth flapping like a stranded fish. Finally, she whirled on me, voice shaking with fury. This isn't over. I wiped a tear away. Oh, I hope not. She stood there, arms crossed, mud-streaked and fuming. The tension was thick, but her stubbornness was thicker. She wasn't done. I leaned against the tree, sipping my coffee. You know, most people would take the hint and leave. She glared, sharp enough to slice through metal. That fish cheated. I nearly choked. I'm sorry, what? You heard me, she snapped, brushing mud off her cheek. That fish knew what it was doing. It was personal. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. So now you're saying a fish outsmarted you on purpose? She flailed a hand. Don't act like you don't know. You probably trained it, or you're hiding something in that pond. That did it. I lost it again, clutching my sides as laughter erupted. Oh yeah, I wheezed. Brutus is my secret weapon, my elite fish guard. Her lips thinned. Laugh all you want, but I'm not leaving till I win. The words hung like a dare. I should have shut it down, but her sheer refusal to face reality piqued my curiosity. How far would she go? You're really ready to humiliate yourself again? I asked. She huffed. This time I'm ready. She stormed off to her car, and I thought she was gone, until 10 minutes later, she marched back with a tackle box, a shiny new rod, and a glare that promised chaos. I leaned against the tree. Wow, you brought backup. Ignoring me, she tied on a fancy lure, her focus intense. I wasn't prepared last time. That fish ambushed me. I smirked. Oh, trust me, you were the only one surprised. She snorted, casting her line with precision. The lure plopped into the water, and she stood rigid, rod in hand, like a knight ready for battle. For a moment, nothing. Her shoulders eased, a smug grin creeping in. See? No drama now, just pure fishing. Then her line snapped tight. Her eyes widened, panic replacing the smirk. Oh no, no, no. The water churned, and Brutus surged up, his massive form breaking the surface before diving with a force that jerked her forward. She screamed, stumbling as the rod bent. I sipped my coffee. Need a hand. I've got this, she growled, teeth clenched. Brutus begged to differ. He swerved, and she hit the ground, sliding through mud, her yellow tracksuit now a soggy mess. Oh, come on, she yelled, scrambling up. I shook my head. This is getting pathetic. She glared, but before she could snap back, Brutus pulled again. She sprawled backward, legs flailing, sliding toward the water. Then, the grand finale. With one mighty yank, the rod flew from her hands, disappearing into the pond. Desperate, she lunged, grabbing air, and fell in. The water swallowed her. Silence. A bubble popped up, like the pond was smirking. Then she burst out, gasping. You've got to be kidding me. I was crying from laughter. I can't breathe. She thrashed, hair plastered, tracksuit ruined. I hate this fish, she screeched, punching the water. Pretty sure it hates you too, I said, wiping my eyes. She stomped to shore, dripping and livid. I was supposed to win. This isn't fair. I chuckled. Fishing's not about fair, it's about skill. And well, I gestured at her soaked, defeated self. The pawns made its point. Her jaw clenched, fists shaking. For a second, I thought she'd try again, but a dark glint flickered in her eyes. This isn't over, she said, voice chillingly calm. I tilted my head. Please don't say that. She stepped closer, sneakers squishing. You think this is funny now, but just wait. A shiver ran through me. She smirked. I'll be back. With that, she marched to her car, leaving her threat hanging in the air. I rubbed my temples. This was about to get worse. The next morning, I hoped she'd given up. Fat chance. A woman like her didn't lose gracefully. She'd stew in her delusions until she felt justified. Sure enough, I heard tires on gravel. Stepping outside, I saw her car, and she'd brought a posse. Her husband, a wiry guy with a tired face, stood beside her. Next to him, a teenage boy. Her son, I guessed, looked miserable, eyes on his phone. Then there was a stocky man in a cheap suit, clutching a briefcase like he was above this mess. I leaned on my porch rail, sipping coffee. You've got to be kidding. She planted her hands on her hips. This is serious. Her husband sighed. Lisa, do we have to? Quiet, Tom. she barked, glaring at me. I brought my lawyer. I nearly spat my coffee. Your lawyer? The suit stepped forward, adjusting his tie. Good morning. I'm Daniel Pierce, representing Mrs. Carter. I blinked at her. Your last name's Carter? She waved it off. Not the point. You unfairly blocked me from a public water source. I waited for the punchline. When none came, I laughed. This is private property. I own the pond. She smirked. But do you own the water? My eye twitched. What? Daniel cleared his throat. Technically, water's part of the natural environment, owned by the public. It's a private pond, I said. Lisa nodded eagerly. But water moves, evaporates, rains, flows. Can you really own it? I resisted smashing my head against the rail. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. She crossed her arms. We'll see what the courts say. I exhaled. You're suing me over a pond? Daniel shifted uncomfortably. We're prepared to file an injunction. I stared. No judge will take this seriously. Guess we'll find out, she said, unfazed. I pinched my nose. Fine, sue me. Waste your time. But explain to your lawyer about the no trespassing sign. Daniel frowned at her. Wait, you trespassed? Not important, she said. Lisa, he said, that's very important. Her son groaned. Mom, this is embarrassing. Can we go? She ignored him. If the law won't fix this, I will. I squinted. What's that mean? She grinned, chilling me again. You'll see. She stormed off, her crew trailing. Tom reluctantly, Daniel muttering about trespassing cases. I knew it wasn't over. Next morning, I tripped over something in my yard, a dead fish. More littered the path to the pond. My stomach dropped. The water looked off, dark, cloudy. I touched it, sniffed. Chemicals. That lunatic poisoned my pond. I called the sheriff, showed him the fish and murk, and pointed the finger at Lisa. He sighed. Got proof. I hesitated. Not yet, but she's been trespassing and threatened me. He gave me a look. That's not enough. So I wait till she kills everything? He shrugged. I'll talk to her, but without evidence, my hands are tied. I fumed as he left. That night, I set up cameras. Sure enough, morning footage showed her sneaking around with a bucket. Gotcha. The sheriff returned, and with the video, he had her. At her door, she played dumb, until he showed the footage. Her face paled. By the end, she faced trespassing and dumping charges, screaming about injustice. I waved as she slammed her door. Better luck next time, Lisa. Back at the pond, old Brutus leaped, splashing triumphantly before vanishing, the pond's undefeated champ.